Hello, and thank you for watching my channel, Marty's Matchbox Makeovers. Today I'm going to be making over a number 16C Scammell snowplow. These first came out in 1964. Some were red and grey, but this one is orange and grey. The most expensive ones you can find come with grey plastic wheels and the side steps are closed. The one that I'm doing up today has black plastic wheels and the steps are open. This model has a lot of chip paint all over it and the axles are quite severely bent, so I shall be replacing those later. There is a black plastic friction block on this model that is designed to keep the tray up or down depending on how you want it positioned. This one's worn out, so I'm going to have to address that during the makeover. It's also missing its most important part, the actual snowplow blade. To start with, I'm going to remove the axles by cutting the ends off. I'm going to replace them anyway, so it doesn't matter if I destroy them in the process. There is also a pivot pin for the tray that needs to be removed. As usual, I'm going to drill out the rivet post. This is necessary on this model so I can refit a new snowplow blade. Here with the torch and X-ray vision you can see that the post is very deep and goes all the way to the underside of the bonnet. This is good news because it means I'm not going to ruin this model by drilling into it. Here is what's left of the original snow blade. For those that have seen me do this before, I apologise, but for new viewers, here I'm drilling out the rivet post to separate the chassis from the body. After removing the head of the rivet, I separate the chassis from the body using a flat-bladed screwdriver. And this is what's left of the snow blade. For comparison, here is a complete snow blade that I've obtained from a spare parts supplier. Now I'm going to quickly cut a screw thread in that rivet post so I can use a small screw to reassemble the model when I've finished with it. Firstly, I drill a hole. Making sure I don't go too deep. And then I tap a thread to accept the screw. This is me putting a drop of oil onto the tap to make it cut the thread a little bit easier. Now I am cutting the thread. This is a 2M button-headed screw that I'm going to use to reassemble the model. Now I'm going to do a test fit to make sure that the threaded hole is deep enough to accept the screw. Now I'm going to make some replacement axles, as the original ones are bent. I do this by modifying some bullet-headed nails by using a grindstone and a file and a battery drill. So first up I use a rotary grindstone to grind down the head of the nail. Next, using a battery drill, I run it over a file held in the vise to reshape the end of the nail to resemble an original axle end. To finish up, I run it over some light emery paper to remove any burrs and to polish it up. Here's a before and after shot, and it shows you what I'm trying to achieve. And this is what it looks like up against a tyre. Now I should do the other axle and the pivot pin for the tray. This is a decal that I've sourced online. It's for the snowplow blade. I'm looking forward to putting this on as it's going to make this blade look brand new. But first I've got to colour match the paint to paint the chassis and cab. I've got two different light greys from Mr. Hobby Paints, number 57 and number 315. I'm hoping that one of them will be close to the original colour. I give them a quick stir and then using a cotton bud I place a dab of each colour onto the cabin and try to see which one best resembles the original paint. It's close, but I'm leaning towards the number 57. Some of my subscribers have suggested that I use a sandblasting machine to remove the paint rather than paint stripper. Here is a hobby sandblaster that my eldest son bought me from wish.com, so I'm going to give it a try. The sandblasting medium is aluminium oxide. Here I am filling up the hopper to test it out. The screw on the top of the hopper is used to adjust the amount of product that is expelled through the nozzle of the sandblaster. For this test I have set it to the maximum with 60 psi pressure. You can see that the sandblaster removes the loose paint quite easily. But when it comes to the other paint that is not loosened, it struggles to remove it. You have to hold the nozzle at point blank range, and it is quite time consuming and very inefficient. On a plus side, it does do a pretty good job of removing the oxidization on the bare metal. It could be that this product is very good and that maybe my compressor is a little bit weak and doesn't put out enough PSI to make it work as designed. So as it is today, this device is not for me. So I shall be returning to my tried and tested favourite of chemical paint stripper. So, not forgetting to use the rubber gloves, I just spread the paint stripper on liberally and wait for it to do its job. When the paint is loosened, I wash it off using a toothbrush and a bath of water. This shot really shows the effectiveness of the paint stripper. It's quite normal for me to repeat the paint stripping process so that all the paint is removed from the model. Now it's time to give the bare metal parts a quick spray of undercoat. I thought that I would do this outside today as it is a nice sunny day. I am putting on a very light coat as I don't want to obscure the details in the casting. Here are all the main parts ready for respraying in their original colours. First up, I'm going to spray all the grey parts grey. I am using Mr. Hobby water-based acrylic paints and I'm quite happy with their glossy results. For the record, I am not affiliated with Mr. Hobby in any way. I am just speaking my mind. To finish up, I give the parts a spray over of Mr. Hobby gloss top coat. If I had used Tamiya paints, I would have used Tamiya top coat. This is because I've had some incompatibility issues in the past. I'm going to mix some X1 gloss black Tamiya paint with some thinners to make a gloss black wash to freshen up the plastic wheels. All it takes is a couple of blobs of gloss black and a heap of thinners to make this happen. The wheels will look brand new. Now it's time to address this friction block. I'm going to heat up some long nose pliers and squash this block back into its original form. In this instance, less is more. You could totally ruin this if you go over the top. Now it's time to place this marvellous sticker onto the snowplow blade to make it look brand new. This is a water slide transfer, so to start with you immerse it in a bath of water. Here I am moistening the blade with water so that when I place the transfer I have time to manoeuvre it into accurate position. The transfer has released from the backing sheet and can now be placed into position. To my horror, the transfer separates into several different parts and I'm thinking this is not going good. I initially panic, but then I think, hang on, I've been here before, I can do this, I can reassemble this transfer and make it look good. But it's then I realise that this transfer is beyond repair. It has been sliced multiple times at the end and is actually in like 12 pieces and impossible to reassemble. It's like Edward Scissorhands made this decal. I've decided that my only option is to repaint the diagonal lines using masking tape and my spray gun. This is me placing some masking tape onto the snowplow blade. I'm using a toothpick to tuck the edges in around the raised edge to prevent bleeding of the paint. Here is a shot of the masked snow blade ready for repainting. Note that I have masked off the white areas only. After spraying with the bright orange, it is time to remove the masking tape to see what the final result looks like. So far I'm actually pleased with the results. Bear in mind that I did spray a top coat of clear varnish prior to painting the orange. That way it sealed the edges of the masking tape. and prevented the orange paint from bleeding. Now finally, here are all the main parts ready to be reassembled. But first I've got to cut the axles to length. So I do a test fit and mark them with an indelible marker, and then I cut them to length using some side cutting pliers. Here you can see I've left the axle over length to enable me to deform the end of the axle to retain the wheels. To do this I use a drill press and two modified nails, the details of which can be found in my other videos. Here is a close-up view of what the finished axle end looks like, and now I'm doing the front axle. Now I'm going to test out this friction block to see if it works as it was designed to. I'm very happy as it seems to work as it should. Now it's time to reassemble the model, starting with the snowplow blade. After fitting the blade and positioning the cap, it is time to insert and tighten the colour matched screw. I really like the look of the base of these models with the colour matched screws fitted. So here is the finished model. I am now going to get my display stand and we can see the before and after reveal shot. Oh no! Okay, so it took me some time to get back to where I was. But now, for your pleasure, here is the final reveal shot. I hope that you've enjoyed this episode of Marty's Matchbox Makeovers. Please subscribe so that in the future you are made aware of any new videos that I release. And rest assured, there will be many of them. Bloody hell. Oh shit. It's in f***ing pieces.